let me reduce the volume just a little bit. I forgot the music on this homepage is a little loud. Yeah, for a second there, it wasn't showing I was actually streaming, even though my system was showing that I was streaming perfectly fine, no problems. But I checked up on the page and nothing for over a minute. I was like, something wrong? So, I had to double check. But we are going to be in the last day of the trial. I have no clue how far this last day of the trial will take us, but give it a shot. Yeah, the one that was like way late. Yeah. Final day. February 25th, 9:47 a.m. District Court. Ooh, hello. There was some reverb there. Fix that. February 25th, 9:47 a.m. Thank you for that, host Delta. District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 2. It's Defendant Lobby, alright, but there's no defendant. I'm trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if something's been happening behind the scenes. Edgeworth. Knowing you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 7777777 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Gant. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. Nope. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, Wright, and Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth? Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. We'll see you in court, right? So, my defendant's missing, and the prosecutor came to gloat. This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. My time is now. February 25th, 10 a.m., District Court, courtroom number 9. That's courtroom, not Mambo. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. Makes her be temperamental tonight. I don't know. It could just be your internet, Delta. You told me you were having issues. Did they actually come out and fix anything at all? Or did they just kind of, like, walk out, tighten a nut or two, and then just kind of go, But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant? They rewired it. Okay. Now, did they rewire it just from... Really? That's weird. Try refreshing it. See if that works. Well, I guess he might not even be able to see me. He might be able to hear me. Chief Gant. Alright. There he is. Morning, folks! How is everyone doing? Hey, Hudgy, been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough in my work as is. Oh, that's a good one! Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is your proposal of yours? Lana, that is to say the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Just completely bypassing the defense? I'm kind of her counsel. Why am I not being counselor? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. Switch from FTL auto to low res. Switch back to FTL and reopen DAP? Okay. Yeah, that might actually work. I don't know what was... Because it was delayed when I was trying to check my own stream. Usually it's like a few seconds. But it took over a minute for it to show up. So... It's probably Mixer itself being slow. What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request and I'll be finished. I'm doing okay-ish. I gotta go to the nearby naval base tomorrow, around noonish, and convince them to cough me up a cat card so I can actually go on base more reliably. But I've never had to get one before, obviously. But it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm in Virginia. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. That's lies! I object! No, Lana! You can't! Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana! I was looking at your radar and it looked like they had several different EWS alerts. Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. Ah, well, I mean, I had some rain come through, but that doesn't usually affect internet connection. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. Well, the defense certainly has the right to self-representation. The request is legally valid, though this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening! It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Objection! One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth? The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would be certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut? I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me that some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal. Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh? To whom? As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. Yeah, oof. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. Tripped over my own tongue there. Very well, the court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Worthy, you'll live to regret this, mark my words. Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna declare yourself guilty? Yeah, no, fuck you. I'm continuing my trial, and I'll prove you're guilty. Like, what? Quite literally, Edgeworth saves our case, saves the bacon. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation? I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dock of the Joe Dock Killings. Is this correct? Yes, I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time. Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that irrelevant? It's got a heart of ice. I mean, it's better than some of the other prosecutors, okay? Yes, it most certainly is. Well, okay then. Sure gave in fast. Well, that's our spineless judge for you. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. 2 years ago. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me. But I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest. The police chief is a jerk. Yeah, he is. It's a good thing you weren't harmed. I passed out. I don't remember much. That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does his testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. That is Edgeworth bullshitting. Except, here's the thing. He's a pizza chat. What? But, you have to admit that, Edgeworth, that was pretty good bullshitting on his part. Unfortunately, the crux of his plan is that I will complete the bullshitting for him. Pizza shit. You know, I'm pretty sure you can cuss in the chat. I've got it like the lowest setting. Give it a shot. I don't know. If it doesn't work, we'll find out. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. Right. Cross-examining, my own assistant. Hold it. 2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct?
Yes, she was second in command under the Deputy Chief of Police, Gant. My sister, she was the best detective ever.
Yes, I remember. Deputy Chief Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair.
No thanks, not shocked enough. Oh, okay. I believe they shared the same office. That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day, too. The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day. Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work. A man came running in and took me hostage. Alright. A man? Yes, Joe Dark. He was, a serial killer. Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of the ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest.
When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right?
Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then he ran into Skye in Gant's office. There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him. Yeah, that's a bad situation.
What was the prosecutor doing there?
That day, there were two people present during Dark's questioning. Deputy Chief Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Almost forgot about Gant. Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony.
I assume that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark.
When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was as good as dead. And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in? I don't clearly remember what happened then, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. So did I see a loose filling fix? There was so much injected anesthetic, the lower part of my left eyelid was numb. Delta, be happy that that stuff works for you. It barely works for me. Quite literally, they injected a whole bunch into my jaw to do a root canal, and I could still feel it. This is like he went here, and I went and he was like, "Wait, you felt that?" I'm like, "Yeah." At least it took the edge off, but I mean, what's worse is that I had to have my wisdom teeth removed, and that was the only thing they could use. They weren't able to put me under or anything, and they had to crack one of them into 4 pieces in order to take it out because one of the roots was hooked. For some reason, it was a hooked root, and they couldn't see it on the X-ray. And yeah, the only way to get out is to unhook it from the hole in the jaw that the root was growing into. Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out.
The lights? The lights.
Sorry. It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on and lightning struck nearby. So the electricity went out.
Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right?
Right, but just then lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind.
I see.
I told the detective about what I saw then.
The detective?
Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case.
Detective Bruce Goodman, victim.
I'd like to hear more, please. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago? Yes, what's so scary about this trial? Again, tripping over myself. And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw? Yes, but at the time, the words just couldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture. A picture? Yes!
Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough?
Ask about the picture. This picture the witness drew. I believe it is a very important meeting.
But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. No. Witness, would you mind if you add this statement to your testimony? No.
Yeah, something like that. Delta, they have to, like, inject it directly onto the nerve tip itself, and it still barely does anything for me. Just word of warning. And I've had a lot of dental work, unfortunately. By the way, why am I having her wax philosophical about a picture? Well, I have this evidence list here, and if you look right about here, you can see that there's, oh yeah, a picture on the opposite side. Youch! Yeah, what's really scary is, like, they had to, like, I had an old cap on, like, one of my front teeth. When I was, like, 8, I tripped and chipped my tooth. And I had it for ages. And, like, what was it, last year? No, year before last. It was old and it didn't line up anymore or anything. So they went to replace it, and they took pliers to it and just wiggled it a couple times and bloop, came off. And I'm sitting here horrified at just how easy it is to remove these caps. It's like, ah! They feel like they're on there, but yeah, some of the teeth, yeah, you just wiggle it back and forth a bit and just take it out. It's like, you think these things are solidly in your mouth, and they're just not. But yeah, that's not fun, having to pull your own tooth with pliers. Mr. Edgeworth, this little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you would insist on denying its existence? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold! This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident. Please turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over. Turn it... Ah! What is this? Yes, what is that? Hey, that's it! That's the picture I drew! Okay, that was a bit weird. I saw, like, some dropped frames there. I went to do this, and it's like, it went, blah, just, like, wait a second. Computer, you're not having issues on me. CPU usage is good, FPS is fine. It's showing 0 drop frames. I have no idea what the heck's going on. Anyways, indeed, 2 men appear to be wrestling here. What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list. Huh? These lists, they're different from each other. What? It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These 2 lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? What? Yeah, can you believe that shit? Order, order! But, Miss Skye, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list? Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor. Wait a minute. If this list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor! Are you alright, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head! If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list! Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth! It's possible. Let's see. You know, it's pretty bad that if you never saw the backside of your own list. Stop the drill out the nerve. They're concerned. Actually, they start bleeding. Yeah.
Is something wrong?
Do you even have to ask? Poor Edgeworth. Sorry, Your Honor. There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list. Is that thing? No! See, you thought you were gonna be done with that shit, huh? You thought you'd never have to hear that fucking tune again, huh? Yeah, there you go, barf, Delta! Feel the pain!
That's that thing! That thing that was dancing in the evidence room!
Clearly, this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives. I guess he was out of scrap paper.
Very well, witness.
Hold on. I want to see the full picture. Right, they're at a rave and that guy has a glow stick. No, Or, no, actually, you know what this is? This is depicting the invention of the Blue Badger and a person over here murdering someone for having brought such a damned creation into existence. It makes sense to me.
Very well, witness. Will you please testify this picture you drew 2 years ago?
Oh god, it's a great gift, I'll tell you. Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor. What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she was looking at the picture. Interesting. What is that thing doing in there? 2 years before its actual creation. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were the shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant.
To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind.
Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw.
Well, I don't see any contradictions here.
It was a mask the murderer was wearing, clearly. Which, gosh, that's another thing. When I go to, on the naval base, I have to wear a mask. And, unfortunately, I don't own any. So, I went and, spent some time putting one together. Unfortunately, it's like, I needed rubber bands. I could only find one. I eventually found a second one, but it was so old it snapped once, and I tied it together. I'm hoping it stays together. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get a little creative.
This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder Prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Can you find a surgical mask? Really? Would I be able to find one? No? Hell, there's shortages everywhere. I mean, I've got a cloth one that's I've made. My mother made one, but she also, the elastic on it was way too short and it didn't work. I could get crafty. I think I have a plan for that. I've got, like, a dust mask, but it's old, and, yeah, it doesn't work very well anyways. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. Oh, wait, hold on. I may have to do a little bit of craftiness, you know, tonight before I go to bed. Did you draw this picture right after the incident? Duct tape it to your face! Yeah, just wrap duct save the clock. Just wrap the duct tape on the face. Just whole head. Just a duct tape burqa. You know, if you can't breathe, you know that no corona will get through. I think I drew it 2 or 3 days later. At first I was in such a state of shock that I couldn't do anything. During that time, the investigation team was reorganized. Excuse me. Sorry. I didn't sleep well last night. Hoping I sleep better tonight. Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Skye. 2 or 3 days later? The memory should still have been fresh in her mind.
Excuse me, witness.
But can you please tell us why this picture is painted all black? The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were the shadows. So, at the time, you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who had come to your rescue? No, I couldn't see him clearly. The lightning was so bright, and I was knocked to the floor. You were knocked to the floor? Dark had a tight grip on me, but when Mr. Marshall jumped on him, I was knocked away. I turned around, and that's when the lightning flashed. Poor Emma. I'm just glad she wasn't hurt. What happened after the lightning flashed? After that, I must have fainted. You mean you didn't see the actual murder take place? No, I'm sorry. The flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation, understandably, caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further? What? Hey, I'm not the bad guy here! Anyway, this picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw? Of course, this is the exact scene. Wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detectives? Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? No, of course not. I'd better watch out or we might find some way to cut my salary. I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me.
Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture?
Huh? Oh, well... That's strange. She claims this is exactly the scene that was imprinted in her mind, and yet, there's clearly a contradiction here. So, what do you guys think? I can't for the life of me remember 100% what the correct thing was, but... See, here's the thing. To me, that it was stop the person with the ruler. There it is. It was a screwdriver. It was the evidence all along. Oh yeah, no, you wrote "we stabbed." Okay, Delta. That's fine. Yeah, Delta was. Hold on. I don't have to do a phone prop. I have a phone right here. Yeah, go and arrest that Delta Ranger guy. Yeah, I've got it right here. He's got all the evidence. Look, he admitted to it. He said, "we." Slip of the tongue? To me, that just sounds like evidence. Alright, nice talking with you, Edward. Alright, sorry. If someone knocks on your door, Delta, in the next few minutes, please let them in. Fucking autocorrect. You need like a prison jumpsuit. It's like, my phone autocorrected and all I got was this lousy prison jumpsuit. Yeah, I didn't think I was it. Because to me, it looks like it's got no tip to this knife. Okay, there we go. I was the wrong piece of evidence. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday.
Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report?
That. If the tip broke off in the body, where's the tip? The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken.
Even I don't have to look closer to see that, Mr. Wright.
But, Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See, the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body.
It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma.
And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem?
It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound in the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken.
Ah! What's the meaning of this?
Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there.
That's right, but what does this mean?
The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is which his memory is mistaken. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. Yeah, objection! Yeah, Delta, it's like, objection, objection, objection! Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Thank you for the sparks, by the way. Have you forgotten already about a little something called falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, Wright. All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Ah! Objection storm. Damn right. I love it when it's an objection storm.
Order, order, order! Are you saying that the investigation really was corrupted?
Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place on the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During this questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there is a lie. I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife.
What are the chances of there being two broken knives?
Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's? Could there have been one? There is another. Of course, there is another. The witness in this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw. It can't just be explained away by a simple observational error. Mr. Wright. In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife.
I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us.
The murder weapon was already broken prior to her murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. Boom. The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Right there inside this picture. This is a picture of the award ceremony. Ah!
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding? Right there. That's a broken knife. More accurately, it's a broken spear tip, but... As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award.
Order, order, order!
Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be. Oh, and why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors Award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean that this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. Oh! Oh boy.
But the prosecutor was the one who actually died.
That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. Wait! I remember now! Yes, struggle. Actually, I think that's the name of this track that's going on right now, is something like Struggle. Literally, I mean, they actually have names for the music in this game, obviously. I remember everything! Witness, Mr. Edgeworth. What is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please?
His list? The one with that picture scribbled on the back.
I knew it. This picture. I'm the one who drew it. What? You drew that? You're the one to blame? Well, Emma's the one to blame for the Blue Badger, so not only is she not going to be a criminal investigator, but we're thinking of just giving her, 25 to life. Yeah, screw it. Death penalty. That thing has haunted our dreams enough. That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me.
Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye?
Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up, and now the Blue Badger? No. It should be interesting, but, not the Blue Badger. Alright, tell us about the Blue Badger. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the Blue Badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. Don't you just love how many twists this case has? I mean, we went into this going, okay, we'll figure out whatever Gant is hiding. And now we're like, what the fuck does the Blue Badger have to do with anything? And, wait, how's the prosecutor had the knife, but wait, he's the one who turned up dead? What the fuck? I mean, don't you just love it? You're just on the edge of the seat the entire case.
This is certainly most unusual.
Try impossible? The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago. Yes, well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination. Stop! Please! Don't pursue this any further! Lana?
What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? No, this is so boring. Oh, really, Delta? Do you really find this boring? Chief Prosecutor Sky. We've already come this far. No, okay, thank you. I'm like, no, watch me because I'm boring. It's too late to turn back. You're riveted? That's good to hear. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your support. Unlike a certain, you know, rebel supporter that we may or may not know. Silence! The defense... you know, I should have done silence in the Silence! Von Karma voice. The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. It seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. Of course, this judge is just so lenient, allowing us to just pursue a random case on the last day of a trial for a completely different one. Whatever, okay. Ugh. Alright, Emma. You sound like Batman. Not that vampire thing. You're right, because I can't do Von Karma's voice. Objection. Have conversations, yes. Let's see, Batman, yeah, it's like, alright, what did you do? Why did you bring the Blue Badger into this? Is it the Joker? Who did it? You know, I actually planned one time to do, like, Arkham Asylum or something for the Batman game, but, you know, streaming it. I got lost in the game. It's like, I know I beat this game once before. What the fuck? Why am I lost? Therefore, I couldn't really continue and stream it, because it would be like, I don't know where to go now. Anyways, the silent man raised his knife. Hold it. Tell me about the knife. When you say that man, I assume you refer to Joe Dark? Yes, at least I think it was him. You think. All I could really see were the shadows. The power outage that immediately preceded the event incident is also documented in the prosecutor's office reports. So then you... I panicked and rushed toward both of them. By the way, there's something important is going to come up. Why would you do something so dangerous? What else could I have done? He was about to stab Mr. Marshall. He seems convinced that Dark was the one holding the knife. But as we've just theorized, Mr. Marshall was the one holding the knife. Well, I didn't know that at the time. When that Dark guy knocked me down, all I could think of was, I'm gonna help that other person. You helped a murderer, Emma! But I knocked away the man with the knife. By the way, there's a little piece of evidence here. Yeah, remember this? A random piece of leather with Emma's, handprint on it. You know, a certain prosecutor who, well, tended to wear some leather. Yeah, things aren't going to go well in this. I'm just going to let you know. There's a reason why Lana absolutely, positively does not want us to pursue this line of questioning at all. What do you mean you think? It all happened so fast, and I was in shock. I don't remember everything clearly. What I did, it's all kind of a blur. Miss Sky was almost killed before she was a witness to a murder about to take place. With so much happening in a matter of seconds, a little disorientation is only natural. I saw the man about to stab the other person who I thought was Mr. Marshall. I knew I had to stop the man with the knife. What you did was very brave, young girl. So then, what happened next? just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's where I saw the blue badger. Why the blue badger? You sure about this? I'm with Phoenix. This Sweat's like, are you sure about this? The blue badger? Of course, see? I even drew a picture of him here. But it was the chief of detectives who thought of this hideous beast. And that was just this year. The blue badger didn't exist 2 years ago. This is all quite verifiable. Why is he sweating? Because it's the blue badger! Have you been here? Look at that ugly mug! Right there! I mean, God! It's the blue badger! It's scary! Out of the way, D-Vamp! You're in the way! I know it sounds strange. I was surprised too when I saw him at the police department. I had this nagging feeling that I'd seen him before somewhere. Really? Wouldn't you sweat if you're trying to figure out why this thing keeps being brought up in your case? Death and despair happened. Yeah, pretty much. Look at that thing gyrating unnaturally. Now I finally remember. Oh, brother, just when you thought that thing had caused enough commotion. Tell us, where in the room did you see him dancing? He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. His shadow? So, you mean you didn't actually see his face with his winning smile and all? That's right, but I still remember it. He had 3 creepy horns. This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken. That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did. Oh, and I suppose you have an explanation. If so, then by all means, please tell us what the shadow really was. What was it that Emma saw in the lightning flash? Who is this blue badger really? I actually just might know. Blue badger hadn't even been dreamt up when Emma drew this picture. Yet, she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is in the defense belief that is... It is the defense's belief that on the fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the blue badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room. Mr. Wright! In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? Please show us this mysterious blue badger look-alike. You see, here's the thing. It's this. This creepy son of a... You know... This is the blue badger. Edgeworth's head. Think about, like, that, roughly? Well, there should be another one. The mysterious blue badger was, in fact, this. But that's... what exactly is that? I believe it's some sort of jar? But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger. Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? A viewpoint? Show them the... correct angle look at this thing. More or less, but... Hold on. Let's rotate... Oh god. It's close? This isn't right. I'm gonna make it look more like the badger. Allow me to remind the defense that this case hinges on the defense's drawing. If Mr. Wright can't match the shape to the witness true, we cannot accept his claim. I've gotta find just the right angle. Maybe I should rotate it vertically a bit more, or horizontally? You can do it. Oh god. Look. It's hard enough as fucking is. pretty sure it was not that way. Fuck it. Close enough for non-government work. God damn it. I know I'm on the right. It's the music that's saying, oh, poor Delta's got PTSD from that. Thank you for those sparks. See our problem. I mean, it's just like. It's like, I know it's. It's like, I gotta be close. Actually, I wonder. What if I did it the other direction? That's the wrong angle. There's no way that was the correct angle. I just had to try. Okay, game, you're being a little persnickety here, okay? I'm relatively certain I have it right. That looks like it to me. There we go. I thought I did that angle before. What did I do wrong? Well, is this a miracle or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the blue badger. I mean, I still can. No, it can't be. I mean, it is. Order, order. The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious blue badger witnessed on the day of the crime is actually this. Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So that badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything. Well, I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. How? Indeed, very well then. Please tell us. What's different now that we know the witness saw this jar? Yeah, actually, that's a good question. I mean, we already knew the location. The murder weapon we already knew. I guess the murderer? Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. At the very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yes, well, knowing this is where, could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant. But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. Oh, wait, yeah, no. The location inside the room, that makes sense. Stupid me. The witness testified so herself. Yes, and it is those two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room, in Chief Gant's office. Are you implying that the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. There's no reason. So there must have been a reason. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason.
Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright?
Finally figured it out. This is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Chief did it. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said that she knocked away a man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now, tell me, what could have set the jar flying?
That would have had to been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf that the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit?
Ah! The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword.
Well, spear. Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, it would have had to have been Neil Marshall wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No, Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes, there is another possibility of what actually transpired in that room.
Another possibility?
Of course, the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nonetheless. I don't know if I can go through with this.
Mr. Wright, what's the matter?
If events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Skye knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Yeah. Emma's got a kill count. You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? No! Yeah, I can't expect me to yell out a no, thud. I never imagined a testimony would lead to this. So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented. What are you saying? I'm sorry, Miss Skye, but given the circumstances, Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from fighting about what Emma did, wasn't it? I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall? Evidence? I'm willing to bet you don't. Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence. Phoenix, you cold bastard. If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony. I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead. You certainly can't get dead people to testify. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Oh no. Touché, Miss Skye. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. Uh-oh. You mean there's still another possibility?
What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth?
Maya? Well, okay, good point. Maya would help. However, Maya is back home training in the mountains, so she's unavailable at this time. I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life, in one manner or another. That's impossible. Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist? I've gotta think back to the court record. The real murderer's name the victim may have left behind. Technically exists. I'm gonna save here just because I present this under duress. This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? Do not be mistaken, Miss Skye. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we seek. The truth. No matter how painful it may be. Save scummer. Don't give me that bullshit. I only save scum like 2 or 3 times this entire case, really, because I don't think I had to save scum the past 4.
Now then, Mr. Wright,
please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased. This is the message left by the deceased. Yeah, this case. Just this case. It's a hard case, okay? Cut me some damn slack, Delta. You're bleeding me dry.
this is that blue badger from before, right?
Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. God damn it! It's like everyone's forgotten this. This is just a jar! A message was left here on the surface of this jar.
What do you mean?
If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice, for some reason the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away.
Yes, there is a line here, drawn in blood.
So, what you're saying is that these dots were once lines? Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used his few precious moments left to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away. The blood must have seeped onto the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we needed to do is connect these points. The victim's message will become apparent. No! Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're making her squirm. Yeah, it's pretty bad when you ignore what your own client is yelling at you to go and accuse your client's sister of murder. It's pretty damn shady shit. And I'm sure no one will hire me after this. This is a bitch. No kidding.
Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us?
Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. It says, drink more Ovaltine. What? Oh, man. Anyways, I gotta connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written given the circumstances. His murderer's name. Boop. 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 Eat more chicken. Well, it's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence, even if it causes all of their last surviving family members to be put in jail. Call the Reaper, Stanley. Forget the hammer. We're gonna get everyone in jail just so you don't have to. Technically, it is spelled wrong. That's how her name is spelled, Emma. I mean, yeah. Her name is spelled Emma, E-M-A, Skye. The prosecutor would have been aware of that. To be fair, that's not the usual spelling of Emma. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind. Don't you feel all happy that ya got your client off? Sort of, actually, really, this doesn't prove anything. This doesn't get my client off, it just means that, hey, both of you can go to jail together. Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Skye. Yeah. Seaworthy, can't say I didn't warn you. Fuck, this is bullshit. Damn, Delta. Calm down, man. It's a cartoon. Calm down, son. No. Yeah. This is one of the most interesting goddamn cases of the entire series. And there is some interesting cases, but this one, whew, you are jerked around left, right, and center. Chief Gant, do you understand the implications of what you've done? What? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That's undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know we aren't defenders of justice? What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter, even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery. Ultimately, the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied. What's going on at the prosecutor's office? They might have sent an innocent man to his death! How can he just stand there like it wasn't his fault? Order! 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 Lol, that dumbfounded expression the chief had. The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. Things are heating up. Oh, yeah. Dun, dun, dun. To a boiling point at that. Like, really? You didn't think about that, huh? February 25th, 12:06, District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 2. Although, I feel kind of bad. It's, my voice, that I used for him shifted from Worthy to, you know, more of, what's his name? Magic Emperor Ganon from, Lunar, the voice I used for, Worthy, Dragon Boy. So, whoops. I have to say, I mean, it works for him. Sorry, Edgeworth. I didn't mean to get you in trouble. Don't worry about it. This is my problem, not yours. Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals! Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal! Make a detective run all around while on duty? And to top it all off, you call me here? I've seen happier people at funerals. I take it Lana's having you run errands again. Let me tell you, this is the last time, pal. Here, she asked me to give you this if there was a break in today's trial. Evidence law? Sure, you were just talking about it just the other day. You must know the 2 rules of evidence law. Rule 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Though Edgeworth wasn't the one who forged the evidence, it was those in the upper command levels of the police department who did. Good point. It still will reflect horribly bad on him. Is that right, Mr. Wright? Seems so. You can at least study some evidence law, really. Really, I've just been flying by the seat of my pants, throwing out evidence which way, it didn't matter. Chief Prosecutor also wanted me to give you a message. A message? She said, if you're planning to take him on, you're gonna need this book. Him? I guess I'll need to give this book a thorough read. Evidence law securely slipped into pocket.
Doesn't look like that book will do you any good now, though.
No doubt, but would it be his fault, though? Technically, he was the prosecutor in charge. So, ultimately, he should have realized something was off, at the very least. Or at least that's what they're planning. By the way, this does bring my evidence up to 3 whole pages. Rules for submitting evidence. Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Rule 2. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. Honestly, I don't even think you can, throw up unregistered evidence in a modern court. I mean, you really have to present, put in everything with the court docket. Would it be his fault, though? Wait. Doesn't look like his book will do any good now.
All that's left now is the chief prosecutor's sentence.
That's where you're wrong, Detective.
Huh?
Haven't you figured it out yet? Why I'm still sitting in that prosecutor's seat, despite all those allegations being thrown at me?
Mr. Edgeworth!
Especially if you're running around with a weapon. Yeah, pretty much. Your Honor, he didn't kill that little girl with a knife. He used this bazooka! It's loaded! I'm gonna have a demonstration by firing it at the jury, just so that everyone can figure out and see that the wounds could not have been made from a piddly little pocket knife. Observe! Blip! Yeah, I'm sorry, you get jumped by the bailiff so fast. The real trial today hasn't begun yet.
What? What else is there left to do? Your credibility's been all but ruined with this forged evidence you were unaware of. And the Sky found out that she unwittingly caused a man's death. And now you're telling me you want to do more? You've got to be kidding me, pal!
You're missing the point, Detective. Lana didn't murder Detective Goodman. She merely stuck a knife into his dead body. That means the real killer is still out there.
What?
And we're going to expose him, no matter what it takes. This case has hurt too many people. It's time to bring it to an end. But also, if you bring in unregistered evidence, it's like, okay, where did this come from? Where's the documentation? Where's the a path of discovery, photographing, all that shit, documentation? You can't just go, oh, no, that's not the victim's, or that's not the defendant's toothbrush. No, this one is. Where'd that come from? You can't have anything like that. February 25th, 12:52, District Court, Courtroom Number 9.
Court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Sky. Mr. Edgeworth.
Yes, Your Honor.
The Inquiry Committee is planning to impose harsh penalties for your actions.
Thank you for the news, Your Honor.
Yes, well, normally this is where the prosecution calls for the witness, but, cough, cough.
He's got the corona! Judge has got the corona! We're all infected! Thanks a lot, Judge! You're supposed to stay indoors! Where's your face mask?
This isn't easy to say. You see, there is some concern that you, Mr. Edgeworth, may have, struck a bargain. You think I may have manipulated the witnesses. I didn't say that. It's just, you see, everyone has been talking and...
Very well, Your Honor. I have a solution. A solution. That being the case, the prosecution will allow the defense to call forth all further witnesses.
What? But there's no precedent for what you're proposing.
Undeniably, this is an unusual arrangement, but a very effective one. It would prove that I haven't struck any deals with the witnesses.
Well, Mr. Wright, what do you say?
Unbelievable. Edgeworth has found a way to push his fucking work off on me! You asshole! He's found a way to continue the trial. Biased judge? Well, generally. Very well, the defense accepts the prosecution's proposal.
Then it's settled. The, defense may now call forth the next witness.
Mr. Wright, you do realize this is your last chance. If you call the wrong witness, this trial's as good as over. The defense calls... Fuck! I know who to call. The Ghostbusters! I mean, sorry. Time for me to bring out the real murderer. Damon Gant. Damon Gant. The defense calls Damon Gant to the stand.
Damon Gant? What does he have to do with anything?
As the defendant's partner 2 years ago, Mr. Gant has first-hand knowledge of the crime. I feel we should hear what he has to say about it. As luck would have it, he should still be in the courthouse. He would also be the least likely to have been manipulated by me in any way. The defense calls bleep to the stand? Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor?
True. All right. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Gant to the stand.
Witness, please state your name and occupation. What is this? Some kind of practical joke? I was just on my way to lunch. Your name and occupation, sir. Worthy, are you sure you want to do this? Your name and occupation. So, you want to play hardball, eh?
But please, Mr. Gant.
Fine. My name is Damon Gant. I'm the acting chief of police. Now then, Chief Gant, the court requests to hear your testimony. Oh, righto! What's with the grim face? First, let's clear up this SL9 incident. Oh, you mean that time when Lana's sisters murdered that prosecutor? Personally, I think it's been made pretty clear already. There are still some things unaccounted for. Oh, like what? Like the role you played in all of this. Son, either you're very brave or very foolish. Name a profession now, bitch. I like that, Delta. You are aware, of course, that a police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons? Sure, take my testimony, for example. I don't have to give it if I don't want to. What? Is that true?
I'm afraid so. The chief of police has the right to refuse to testify.
Of course, such an action carries with it certain risks. Don't worry, I'm not here to hinder your trial. Just remember, if this turns out to be a big waste of time, don't say I didn't warn you.
Very well, the witness may now begin his testimony.
SL9 incident. As I recall, Neil and I were questioning him that day. To make a long story short, we slipped up. That power outage didn't help either. When I went to my office, I found Lana there. Apparently she had already arranged the crime scene. As you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. Let's go to jail. Please let him go to jail. You'll just have to wait and see, Delta. I'm sorry. You know how many people go to jail after this? Like, everyone. Like, both Skies, the judge, Phoenix, Edgeworth goes to jail, even Gumshoe. They found out that he had unpaid parking tickets. Who knew? That is when Dark was arrested. Him? He was lying on the floor, unconscious. When Emma sent Neil flying, it seemed Dark bumped his head. I see. Everything seems pretty clear-cut. If the police chief has the right to refuse to testify, then I'd better hit him hard and fast. Yeah. As I recall, a ceremony was held in the police department that day. Yes, that's right. I guess you could say I'm a workaholic. After winning his award, Neil was all fired up, too. That's probably what spooked Dark and made him run away like that. Was the defendant, Lana Skye, also present in the room? I don't quite remember. At the very least, she wasn't there when Dark ran for it. So the two of you ran immediately after him, right? That's right, but Dark made it to the elevator first, so Neil and I split up. He went upstairs and I went downstairs. I guess you could say he got lucky. How'd Dark get out, though? Inattentiveness, an unlocked door? Come on. What's this about a power outage? Oh, that. The elevator stopped all of a sudden, and I got the shock of my life. Well, probably not as shocked as Neil was when that knife went into his heart, though. That's not funny. When I went to my office, I found Lana there. Could you tell us what you saw? It was a shocking sight. Neil and that serial killer were lying in a heap on the floor, all tangled together. Dark was also lying collapsed on the floor? Whew. Excuse me. Yes, apparently Inattended was knocked out. Next to them were those two poor girls, Lana and Emma. Lana was cradling Emma in her arms. Looking back at it now, she must have already known what her sister had done. Apparently, she had already arranged the crime scene. How can you know that? Because of the victim's body. It had already been moved. So that means... you found the body near Lana's desk? That's right. I think you said earlier it was my suit of armor that really stabbed the prosecutor? Yes. Anyway... I was pregnant pause. As you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. So you're saying that the forgery had already taken place by the time you arrived at your office? That's exactly what I'm saying. I can understand how Lana must have felt. But moving a body and hiding evidence are inexcusable, no matter what the circumstances. Is that how it really went down? Staring at the witness won't do you any good, Mr. Wright. If you're going to stare at anything, you'd better off staring at the court record. Worthy, always a smooth talker. But which piece of evidence ties Gant to the forgery? Lana did admit to forging evidence, but it can't be the whole truth. Somehow I've got to link Gant to the incident. No, not quite. This is where shit gets hard, though. That, however, I'm pretty sure it's the evidence list. Because remember, half of it was on his... No, wait, but that's forging for the other case, the SL9. There is this one. a fragment was found in his safe, but... We're going to save scum. But remember, I can't, you know, when we talk about evidence law, how do I prove that this has something to do with it? That's true. I mean, it could be the evidence list. Ah! Okay. You claim you had nothing to do with the forgery. But I'm afraid that this is a claim you cannot back up, because I had part of it found it in his safe, which I, by the way, illegally stole. Here's the thing, though. I managed to prove that that piece of evidence was relevant to the case already. But I did not prove that the leather swatch was. Explain yourself. Several pieces of evidence were found in your office. Take this jar, for example.
That's the blue badger you showed us earlier.
A piece of this jar was discovered in your safe. Not only that, but the evidence list I presented earlier. Now that was the other thing I was going to present. Was actually found inside your desk.
It was found where?
You see, Chief Gant, these articles of evidence uncovered in your office are both concrete proof that you also played a part in the illegal investigation.
Chief Gant, what's the meaning of this?
Oh, here's a defense attorney who may even rival Worthy. So you admit to it then, that you were involved in the forgery? Who, me? Or do you mean you? Me? Why would I have anything to do with that? Well, you were the one who snuck into my office when you found this evidence. Prosecutors aren't the only ones capable of forging evidence, you know. Defense attorneys can do so too. Isn't that right, Righto? However, Detective Gumshoe was present during the investigation. Worthy, my boy. Not even detectives are exempt from the law. Rest assured, Dick will receive his due punishment. What? If Detective Gumshoe's salary drops any further, he'll end up paying to work!
Yes, well, in light of the detective's presence, please give us your testimony regarding these pieces of evidence found in your office, and the relation to the forgery that took place at the crime scene. My. Kids these days no longer know how to put two and two together. Wait, is that true, Delta? Do you not know how to put two and two together? Come on, tell me. What does this make? Please, just 2 plus 2. What does it make? Come on. You can tell us, Delta. Please, we need to have clear proof that kids can add. Piss off, and it's... No, it's not 4, it's 22! 2 and 2! Oh no, they didn't teach you the math! I'm messing with you, Delta. Let's see. What was it now? A jar fragment and a list? For all I know, you could have planned them in my office. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. If they were found after Dark was convicted, then they're worthless. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery. Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Let's keep playing with his hair, because that's his kind of, like, idle, you know... He's disinterested in what we're talking about. So he keeps playing with his hair. Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor?
When investigating the crime scene, you should have been more careful to observe protocol.
You do understand what I am the chief of police, right? There will be consequences. Oh, indeed. I believe I will press charges, so you won't make the same mistake again. What, you thought I was joking when I said everyone goes to jail, Phoenix included? Come on now.
My apologies, Chief, but wouldn't you mind waiting until tomorrow for that? Today is, well, you know.
All right, Aji. In return, though,
I know, that place, right?
Huh? What? What are these guys telepathic? What protocol? No one informed us of this. Here's the thing, Delta. Ignorance of the law does not give you immunity from the law. Alright? Just to let you know, if you didn't know that going down a street at 35 was illegal because you didn't find a posted speed limit, that's not on, the court. You may have just overlooked it or something. You'll still get that damn ticket. Hold it. I'd appreciate it if you'd stop making these ridiculous allegations. Yes, you do have a point. You wouldn't have had the guts to do something like that. What? I'll have you know, back in the day I once broke into the cattle ranch and tipped... Mr. Wright, what are you saying? Anyway, you can't prove you didn't carry in the evidence, can you? If you have proof to the contrary, you're going to need it later. Later? What are you talking about? What else? I'm talking about when Righto's prints are found. Yes, if they're found inside my safe, they would prove this investigation was illegal. I've never faced anyone as slimy as this guy. Anyway, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. What do you mean by that? This is all purely hypothetical, of course, but suppose I did place those items in my safe. Such an act wouldn't necessarily constitute forgery. If concealing evidence found at a crime scene isn't forgery, I'm not through speaking yet, Righto. It all depends on when the evidence was discovered. If they were found after Dark was convicted, then they're worthless. Are you saying that this jar fragment wasn't discovered in the initial investigation? It would appear not. After all, it wasn't listed in the evidence list. For all we know, it could have suddenly materialized the day after Dark was sentenced. Oh, and wouldn't that be convenient? Right. The Chief is talking about a possibility. So long as you can't rule that out, your remarks, however clever they may be, will only succeed in wasting time. Tell me something I don't know. Come now, Righto. Think about it. There's no reason I'd participate in a forgery. How can you look me in the eye and say that? Because I'm innocent. Remember, who was it that murdered Neil? I'm not sure I care for the word murder here. But in the end, the person responsible for Mr. Marshall's unfortunate demise was Emma Skye. Well, now do you see? Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Really, Chief Gant? At the very least, there is one very large benefit you've reaped from all this. Oh, I wasn't aware. What is this benefit? That would, of course, be the position you have, Chief of Police. Oh! The resolution of the SL9 incident secured your promotion to Chief. That in itself is sufficient motive. Oh, that's a good one. Huh? Do you really think I'm that incompetent? What do you mean? Even without that case, I was already in line to become the next chief. The resolution of SL9 merely sped up the inevitable a little. Is that true, Edgeworth? Yes, he was going to be made chief anyway. Gah! Be careful when pointing that finger, or you might wind up being the one pointed at. So that means there's only one possible motivation for you to commit forgery. If you didn't do it for yourself, then you did it for someone else. Don't be silly, Worthy. You know me better than that. There are only 3 people I look out for. Me, myself, and I. It's out in the open now. Aji, would you mind if I change my testimony a little?
By all means, please do.
I wouldn't be anyone's accomplice if there was nothing in it for me. sure? We're starting to get somewhere. Nothing in it for you? Sorry, but the only person I care about is yours truly. That girl, Lana's little sister, was it? If you think I felt sorry for her, you'd better think again. You're right, you don't feel sorry for anyone. Be tough on crime and tough on people. That's how I was raised. He's the police chief, yeah, I know. You seem to be lax enough on yourself, though. Oh, that's a good one, Worthy. Could there have been something in it for him? In his selfishness, would he have helped someone out? Of course. True, you might not help out anyone for their sake, but if it would benefit you, you might decide to assist someone. Mr. Wright, it appears you're positively determined to portray the chief as a nice man who likes to lend people a hand. Not quite, Judge, but getting close. That's not what I mean. Very well then. Who is this person you believe Chief Gant may have helped forge evidence? Why, of course. Lana Skye. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye? The defendant? I believe it's quite obvious in light of the circumstances. Inna Skye fell victim to an unfortunate series of events. Who would want to help her more than her own sister Lana? And as for Chief Gant, he would also have a reason to help Lana if she asked him to. That reason, of course, is self-profit. Self-profit? What do you mean? After the SL9 incident was resolved, Lana Skye was appointed Chief Prosecutor in the Prosecutor's Office. The person who arranged this job change was you, Chief Gant. But how would he profit from all of this? He would be able to use the Chief Prosecutor as his puppet. Essentially, he would acquire unchecked authority over all investigations. Do you mean to tell me that despite the Chief's formidable appearance, he plays with puppets? That's the judge for us. Oh, wait! You must mean puppet as in someone forced to do his bidding. Never mind. Admit it, Chief. You assisted Lana Skye in forging evidence. Your motive to appoint her as Chief Prosecutor so you could control her. Righto, my boy. You have quite an imagination. Let me ask you something. What? Do you have any proof of this? That I controlled Lana? For example, is Lana testifying that I've done such a thing? Lana... she's keeping quiet to protect Emma. There's no way she'd testify against Gant. I'm afraid without any proof, this all amounts to nothing more than mere conjecture. Unless that is also what happened in this incident. This incident? Which one would that be? Of course I'm talking about the murder of Detective Bruce Goodman. The Chief Prosecutor has been acting strange throughout this entire trial. Almost as if someone has been controlling her. That's some serious allegations. Worthy, you better watch your tongue. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Just, what do you mean? What he means, Your Honor, is that Chief Gant is involved in the murder of Detective Goodman. Not only that, but the Chief is now making Lana take the rap to cover up his involvement. What? Oh, yeah. Order! I said order! Some fries with that, damn it! Mr. Wright, you can't be serious. Huh? This is an affront to the highest-ranking officer in our law enforcement agency. To accuse the chief of police of blackmail and murder? That's impossible! Your Honor, I was merely reiterating. what Mr. Edgeworth said in easier to understand language. It's too late, Mr. Wright. There's no turning back for us now. It looks like he's the one who's decided to go through with this. Achievement unlocked. Adult judges. Found the slowest witted judge in his existence.
Can you prove this, Mr. Wright? That the chief, a high-ranking officer in law, is involved in this murder?
Good question. Regardless of his rank or title, Chief Gant is just a man. The question is he a criminal? I believe the evidence will tell.
I see. Alright then.
Oh boy, I don't remember what piece of evidence. What do I have on him?
Let's see what Mr. Wright's got, and it better be good. Shows us evidence that ties Chief Gant to the murder of Detective Goodman.
I'm thinking it's that. It's the knife. She had to pull it out and hide it. There's also that. He's the only person to have gone in before Miles. And, well, Meekin and Goodman. But if that's the case, the only way he could have gotten that is if he was in there with Goodman. Whatever.
Well, Chief?
So long as Rhino here is tossing out things regardless of the relevance. Whoops! Fucked up. Mind if I toss something too, Aji? This shoe should do nicely. I'll chuck it right at you.
You always were quite the joker, weren't you?
Oops. Looks like I got it wrong.
Don't oops me. Maybe next time the boot to the head will knock some sense into you.
By the way, that line right there, I have to admit, was not originally in the DS version of the game. That line right there was actually added when they did this trilogy. He said something else instead. Now, you're probably wondering, why would they change the line? What would be the point? There is a rather famous video. It's rather old, but it's a rather famous video on YouTube that is basically takes an old British skit of a boot to the head and put the Phoenix Wright characters in it. It's very well done and rather hilarious. I do suggest watching it. Yeah, Flying Shoe Song is like, I bequeath to my daughter Jenny a boot to the head. What? Oh! And one more for a wimp of a husband. What? Ow! Oh, it's rather hilarious. Please look it up. I know it's hard with all that's gone on during this trial, but try to think back to what happened in the evidence room 4 days ago. He mentions it. We did find something during yesterday's investigation. Something that proves Gant entered that room. It looks like he wants another one of your boots, Aji.
I see. Alright then. Let's see what Mr. Wright's got. And it better be good. Shows us evidence that ties Chief Gant to the murder of Detective Goodman.
Well, there was other bloody handprint. Well, how do I prove it? I mean, it could be that. I'm really at a loss. I cannot recall what exactly was the piece of evidence. I don't think it was the ID card record. pretty sure it was the blood, but how do I show it? Is it this? Damn it. Okay, so that's wrong. I just can't remember. Was it the glove? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It might be the badge. Yeah, you're right, ma'am. I should have shown that first, the ID card list.
This is the ID card list.
Yes, the one that shows who entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. There was one ID on the list we couldn't determine the owner of yesterday. Of course, the problem was that I couldn't... It's like... The wording, it's like, it doesn't really show that he did the crime, just that he was there. I mean, it's not hardcore evidence. 7777777. Sorry, but there's no way you can prove that that's my card number. It's your number.
What? How do you know that?
The safe in Chief Gant's office requires a code to open. A 7-digit code.
7 digits? You don't mean...
I'm afraid so, Your Honor. The code was 7777777. Great! And now I'm just telling the judge that, yeah, I broke in. Yeah, I broke into the chief's safe. What you got? The same as the remaining ID card number on that list. Chief Gant, you entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. Well, actually, that's got him sweating. He's got a little bit of an eye twitch there.
Order, order! Chief Gant, what do you have to say?
Nothing. The defense's search of my office was in violation of regulations. And I will demand Mr. Wright be punished to the maximum extent of the law. But right now, this court demands an explanation from you. What about the use of this ID card?
Chief Gant, so you admit it? You entered the evidence room? On the day of the crime?
What about it? I'm chief of the police, whether it's the evidence room or the bathroom. What's the difference? I can go anywhere I want. Tell me, when you entered the room, were you alone? I always go to the bathroom alone, as I do with the evidence room. Detective Goodman wouldn't have happened to be with you on that day, would he? Of course not. Why would he? I hadn't seen him in days. You hadn't seen him in days, Chief Gant? I'm afraid you've just undone yourself. On that day, you had to have met with Detective Goodman.
What do you mean? This trial's purpose is to determine Lana Sky's guilt.
No, it isn't, Your Honor. This trial's purpose is to determine the truth. If Chief Gant met the victim on the day of the crime, then we need to determine one thing. What transpired during that meeting?
In that case, Mr. Wright, I'm gonna have to ask you for evidence. Show us proof that the victim went to meet Chief Gant on the day of the crime.
His lost item report. He lost his badge. It can only be submitted to the Chief of Police. Detective Goodman lost his ID card on the day of the crime. Or to be more accurate, Jake Marshall stole it. So Detective Goodman filed out a lost item report. He would have had to give that report to the Chief of Police. Yet, you are in possession of the report, which means you can't be sure if he filed it. He filed it. How do I know, you ask? Because he needed to enter the evidence room that day.
He needed to?
Yes, to transfer the evidence out.
Oh.
Detective Goodman took the form to Chief Gant. Then, you accompanied the detective to the evidence room. I accompanied him? There's no other way the murderer and Detective Goodman could have entered the room. Hold on, let me guess what you're going to say next. I, the chief of police, murdered poor Goodman. Yeah, exactly. But wait, the chief didn't necessarily need to accompany him to the evidence room. He could have just lent him his ID card. Yes. Now that you mention it, I believe I may have done something of the sort. Sorry, but that's not possible. According to the record, your card was only used once. Yet you showed us your ID card earlier. You had really lent it to Detective Goodman. It would have been found on his body. No! Wow, that was one hell of a freak out. Chief Cat, you didn't! The murder was most likely a spur-of-the-moment crime for no one in their right mind. But would choose the police department as a no one in their right mind would choose the police department to commit murder. After the murder, you contacted Lana at the prosecutor's office. Why? To dispose of Detective Goodman's body, of course. You're forgetting, Mr. Wright, that the victim's body was discovered in the prosecutor's office parking lot. How did he manage to move it there? I was at the police department the entire day, you know. And everyone's aware that Lana stayed at the prosecutor's office after the ceremony. Everyone except me, it seems. Still, you're the chief of police. You have an entire police force at your disposal. Oh, so you think I just ordered an officer to do it? Hey, you, take this here dead body over to the prosecutor's office. I don't think so. Chief Gant, you left all the evidence we need to prove how you moved the body to the prosecutor's office. All this time, I thought it was a useless clue just taking up space. How could Chief Gant move the body? Mr. Wright, show us the evidence. To move the victim's body, Chief Gant used this. This, honestly, this is how he moved Detective Goodman's body. What's that? A screwdriver? Yes, but not the drink kind this time, Your Honor. I know you prefer to imbue yourself with a few before getting on stand. That would be the only way to explain your conduct. I mean, excuse me, yes, a screwdriver. But what does that have to do with this case? Mr. Edgeworth, think back to the day of the crime. What is this screwdriver doing here? It's here because... I was asked to go by Chief Gant, no less. He told me he wanted me to keep it here in the prosecutor's office. In any case, on the day of the stabbings, I brought this back here. Ooh, yes. After the ceremony ended that day, I didn't plan to return to the prosecutor's office. But you did, because Chief Gant asked you to. You mean The body was found in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. I think it's obvious what happened. The body was moved by that car. Yeah. Detective Goodman's body was carried in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car? Yes, unless of course you have another explanation, Chief. Why else would you have asked Mr. Edgeworth to transport evidence from a closed case? There's only one plausible explanation. To transport the body to your accomplice, Miss Lana Skye. Hell yeah. Order, order, order! What's going on here? Is there no room for rebuttal to the defense's outrageous accusations? Think back to the photograph Miss Sard took at the prosecutor's office. This was not a photo of the body being stuffed in the trunk to be taken away. It was exactly the opposite. It is the photo of the body being taken from the trunk. Chief Gat, please say something! I believe your time's up. Oh, shit. My time's up? Sorry, Rhino, but I'm having lunch with the District Attorney General after this. We have to get going if we're going to make it in time for the early bird special. But the cross-examination isn't finished yet. Remember what I told you earlier? A police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons? Like the right to refuse to testify. I'm invoking that right now. What? That is not a right to be casually invoked. There are certain risks to be considered. So you're going to just run away after all this? Run away? Don't make me laugh, Worthy. I stabbed old Goodman. That's what you're saying, right? But if you had any conclusive evidence, you would have presented it by now. Well, You think I had Lana dispose of the body? If so, then show your proof and get it over with. I'll say it again, Mr. Wright. Damon Gant is the current chief of police. This court will not tolerate any accusations against him without concrete proof. Well, Mr. Wright, Your Honor? Do you have any concrete proof? Proof that Chief Gant murdered Detective Goodman and made Miss Skye dispose of his body. Do I have... Well, do I have any proof? That's a good question. I don't think I actually do. I mean, let's see. Parking lot, Edgeworth's car, white enamel shoe. I don't really think I actually have anything. It's no use showing evidence I'm not even sure of myself. No, Your Honor, at present, I have no conclusive evidence. Humph! See, Aji? In that case, this court is forced to penalize you for your allegations against the chief. What? Here's a tip. Never gamble what you can't afford to lose, Righto. It seems that Lady Luck was on my side again today. Okay, Aji, I'll leave the rest to you. I warned you earlier, Mr. Wright. This is an affront to the senior officer of our nation's law enforcement agency. What? Lady Luck, maybe we should have a word with her. Mr. Edgeworth, what do you mean? There's one lady who knows the real truth behind this trial. We haven't yet had the honor of hearing her testimony. A lady who knows the truth? Another witness? In the absence of conclusive evidence, the only other method of proof is testimony. But Chief Gant has invoked his right to refuse to testify. There is still someone else, one more witness who can answer all the questions. Raised in this trial, someone right in this very room. Mr. Edgeworth, who is this person? Why are you asking me, Your Honor? Have you forgotten? The defense is the one calling witnesses today. Mr. Wright, does such a witness exist? She may not be willing to tell the truth, but we can't just stop now. Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls forth... well, Lana Skye. The defendant? Miss Lana Skye? See, that was one of the tricky things with this case, is normally you're supposed to present evidence and not just give up when it gives you the option of presenting or not presenting. This is one of those cases, one of those rare cases, and actually, the first case, out of the entire first game, that you actually had to go, no, Your Honor, I don't have evidence. Yet. She was in the underground parking lot at 5:15 on February 21st. Her task to dispose of the victim's body, in accordance with a certain someone's orders.
Mr. Edgeworth, the prosecution has no objections, Your Honor. Very well, the court will now take a final recess for the day. In 15 minutes, we'll reconvene to hear the defendant's testimony. This court is now in Hold on. Huh? Chief Gant, I thought you were going to eat.
Listen good, Lana. He's talking to Lana. I don't think you need me to tell you this, but if you accept Mr. Wright's claims, there will be terrible consequences. That's right. Your sister will be found guilty for Neil Marshall's murder. This isn't good. Of course, you'd never support such outrageous claims anyway, right? Just something to think about. Alright then. I've got a lunch date to meet.
Okay, if there aren't any further objections.
Yeah, witness tampering. In the open! Fucking blackmailing her in the goddamn open!
The court is now in recess.
Oh, give me a second. I need to get a new drink. I need something harder, I guess. Switching voices back and forth is a little harsh on the vocal cords. Especially if you do a gruff voice, and then try to do a gruff voice. Okay, that's more like Mickey Mouse. February 25th, 2:04 p.m., District Court Defendant Lobby number 2. Looks like we managed to stay in the game. Yeah, thanks to your help, Edgeworth.
That chief, he's something else, eh, pals?
Detective Gumshoe?
I'm not a detective anymore.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
Don't worry. I've already decided where to work now. At your office.
No. I'm sorry, no. My office?
Sure. I'll take the place of that top-notch girl you used to work with.
Could he mean Maya?
Still, looks like we're all out of moves now. Chief Gant's done it again. How is it he always gets the upper hand?
It's not fair he has... it's not fair he has the right to refuse to testify. Settle down, Wright. Remember what the judge said?
But Chief, that is not a right to be casually invoked. A certain risk to be considered.
Risks? What did he mean by that? It's simple. If the chief refuses to testify, the opposite also holds true. You mean he forfeits his right to say anything too? Emma! Are you okay? Yeah, when I came to, I was in the medical office. I've been listening to the trial from the gallery. So she heard everything that's been going on. Emma, I'm sorry for what I said before. No, don't be. It was the truth. You know, it's funny. I almost feel somehow relieved.
Relieved?
Yeah. Now I finally know what really happened. To think that all this time, my sister was being blackmailed by that terrible man. And she did it all just to protect me. Ever since her appointment as chief prosecutor, everyone who knew her said she changed. Perhaps it was easier that way for her.
What do you mean?
What do you think I mean? To follow Chief Gant's orders. She must have shut herself up deep inside. To force herself to do anything and everything the chief told her to do. That must be why she became so cold. It was all my fault. It's all because I murdered Mr. Marshall.
Hey, don't go blaming yourself now. If you want to blame anyone, blame society, pal.
Chief Gant may be able to fool everyone else with his forgery, but he can't fool my memory. I remember now. I knocked Mr. Marshall into that armor. I see.
Well, we better get back. It's time for the final act.
Alright, Emma, why don't you wait here? No, I'm going with you. I want to be there when Lana tells the truth. Let's go, Wright. It's time to end this. Alright, everyone buckled in?
Let's go!
Let's do this! February 25th, 2:21 p.m. District Court, courtroom number 9.
Now then, will the defendant, Miss Lana Sky, please take the stand?
Miss Lana Sky, you are the chief prosecutor. I'm sure you're aware of what is required of you. But Mr. Edgeworth, you already know everything. You know all that I've done these past 2 years. Please provide the court with your testimony, Miss Sky. And remember, you are under oath. We want to hear the truth. Of course, the truth. Lana, no matter what happens, I'll always be your sister.
Now then, your testimony, if you will. First, tell us all about your relationship with Chief Gant.
Have you and him kind of been doing the,
You did have the same office, I'm just saying.
Everything hinges on your testimony. You're the only chance we have to get Gant. Gant and the Fabrications. I'm sorry, that just sounds like a band. Welcome to Gant and the Fabrications! I worked alongside Gant for years. There's no truth to his blackmail theory. I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself. When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I rearranged the crime scene. My only motivation was to get Dark convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma.
Are you sure about this testimony?
Your Honor, I'm confessing to a capital offense. Of course I'm sure. But Lana!
If this is true, then that means Chief Gant has nothing to do with this.
That's what I've been telling you from the beginning. Please, Mr. Wright, you've gotta help her. She's sacrificing herself because of me. But what if she's telling the truth? She's not. I know my own sister. Whenever she speaks stiffly like that, she's hiding something inside.
Oh, excuse me.
Whoops. Little bit of carbonation from this. Sorry. Deep down, she's really screaming in agony. Yeah, this is no time to start second-guessing myself. Alright.
Let's now begin its cross-examination.
By the way, later on, there will eventually be a case where pressing the witness for details will cause me to have a penalty. Just to let you know, this game will not play entirely fair. Luckily, it's not here. How many years exactly? Ever since I made senior detective. Let's see, I was 24 then. Whew. Sorry, I was 24 then, so that would have been 5 years.
Detective Gant and Detective Sky were legendary partners. I personally saw them testify in numerous cases.
She must have been good coming from the same school as me, huh? Damon Gant was a respectable detective, that's why there's no truth to this blackmail theory. But think about it, Miss Sky. You didn't murder Detective Goodman. You told me as much yesterday in jail. You still don't get it, do you, Mr. Wright? Any testimony you cannot present in court is as useless as idle gossip. I stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. And I fabricated the evidence 2 years ago all by myself. Did you do so to help your sister? Joe Dark was a serial killer. My sister's almost become his last victim that day. I didn't want that incident to ruin her life. But what she did was justifiable self-defense. She wouldn't have been charged with anything. That's not the point. She was traumatized that day all because of that creep. That's why I couldn't forgive him. Lana.
So that's why you fabricated the evidence 2 years ago.
When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I rearranged the crime scene. You say you did this all by yourself? Yes. Would you mind telling us what you found when you arrived at the crime scene? Excuse me. I don't know why. I'm just... Ugh. Like I said, I didn't sleep very well last night. It seems I was the first person to discover the scene. The broken Prosecutor Award knife was stuck in the victim's body. What? But Prosecutor Marshall died from an unfortunate accident. That's only a situation you dreamed was possible. The reality is, it wasn't my sister who took the prosecutor's life. Fantasize all you want, Mr. Wright, but I'll never change this statement. You mean Prosecutor Marshall wound up being killed by Doc? Something like that. If that is so, what happened to the other murder weapon? Doc was carrying a switchblade knife. Oh, that was lying on the floor a little distance away. It was probably knocked away in the struggle. That's not how it went down. She's trying to cover up her lies with more lies. All just to protect me.
So when you found the scene like this, what did you do? After all, this is what everything boils down to.
Yes. I broke off the tip of Dark's knife, planted it inside the wound, and moved the body. You planted the tips of Dark's knife in the victim's...
Then you moved the body?
But why? Why would you do that? You of all people should know, Edgeworth. You've always had a good head on your shoulders. My head isn't that bad, but maybe I ought to ask her for the sake of others. See, I know why she would plant the knife. But why would she need to move the body? When you showed up on the scene, where exactly was the victim's body? It was where you deduced it was, by Chief Gant's desk. But the body was found by your desk. Why did you move it there? The reason for that is simple.
Let's have the witness explain this in more detail. The reason Miss Sky moved the body.
Yes, why did she have to move the body? The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plans. Why? Pieces of the jar? You mean... Yes, that wretched jar you showed us earlier. In order to show that Dark committed the crime, I felt it would be more expedient to move the body. So, when you first found the body, the jar was already... Of course, it had been shattered to pieces. When you looked at the crime scene, it would be clear right away what happened. Neil Marshall was dead, and Dark was lying unconscious. In other words, the jar must have been broken during their struggle.
I see.
What's the matter, Emma? Apparently the jar shattered at the time the crime was committed. But I have a feeling there's more to it than that. Must be a contradiction here somewhere. Anyway, I committed this fabrication completely alone. See, honestly, I don't even need the save scum. Probably. If it shattered at the time, how did someone write her name on it? Miss Sky, I understand how you feel. You committed that crime 2 years ago to protect your sister.
You mean the forgery at the scene where Neil Marshall was murdered?
If that truth were to be exposed now, the past 2 years of your life will have been in vain. Even so, I am compelled to bring to everyone's attention a significant contradiction within your testimony. A contradiction in my testimony? You testified, and I quote, "The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan." That's right.
Do you have a problem with that?
It's a simple oversight, really. You see, a message was written on the jar in the victim's blood. Yes, the prosecutor must have written in his final moments. Exactly so. And this is where the contradiction lies. And in order for the victim to be able to write his message on the jar, it must not yet have been broken before he died. Ah! He couldn't have written his name on a shattered jar!
Order, order!
Your Honor, it would appear more information is needed in regard to this jar and its bloody message. We may be missing something critical here. Something critical. Chief Prosecutor, it seems you're in the dark as we are about the truth towards which we're headed. What? Just tell us exactly what you saw. We'll piece together the information to arrive at the truth.
Very well, the witness may now continue her testimony.
I immediately noticed the blood traces on the jar, but it was dark in the room. I didn't have time to check it out. To be safe, I wiped away the blood. The fragments were large, so I'm sure I got them all. All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered. But why?
You mean you were the one who wiped away the message in blood?
I wasn't chief prosecutor at the time. She didn't think Dark was the real murderer. That's why she tried to erase the real evidence.
Very well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination.
Yes. You know, nothing about this jar seems to be, piecing together. Okay, I'll keep my puns to myself. Boo! Jar message in blood. I immediately noticed the blood traces on the jar, but how? It was dark. So the jar was already broken. It's a miracle that thing hadn't broken earlier.
It certainly looks as feeble as the defense's case.
But not as feeble as the judge's judgment. You're an ace detective who never missed a detail. Do you really expect us to believe you didn't investigate what was written on the jar pieces? Normally I would have. But it was dark in the room, and I didn't have time to check it out. So, you didn't know your sister's name was written on the jar. Oh, geez, thanks, Delta, for that gift. Like, hit with tomatoes. No. If I had known, I would have gathered all the pieces and ground them to dust. Well, that helps my case. Lana, you'd do that for me? Seems you two might make up just yet. Anyway, I had barely had enough time to move the body as it was. If someone happened upon the scene, you'd lose your chance to erase the evidence. You must have been in a hurry. I was. I knew I had to destroy the evidence before anyone came.
This is rather shocking.
To be safe, I wiped away the blood. I'm afraid this action of yours reveals what really happened.
What do you mean?
If you really thought Dark killed Prosecutor Marshall, you wouldn't have wiped away the blood. What else could I have done in that situation? Lana! I only had a few moments. There wasn't enough time for me to do anything else but gather up the pieces. Fragments are large, so I'm sure I got them all. You didn't. But how could you see with the power out? It should have been pitch black in that office. A detective is always prepared, Mr. Wright. Even now, I always carry a pocket light and a camera with me. Even I carry a bottle of emergency luminol wherever I go. I never miss anything. I got every last piece. Well, isn't that a bit of a problem? All I could think about was wiping them clean before they were discovered. You couldn't have gotten every last piece because there's one piece that was in the chief's safe. So you illegally rearranged the crime scene. Yes, I don't have any excuse for my actions. I'm so sorry, Lana. I didn't know. I've treated you badly all this time. It's not too late. There's still plenty of time to make up. After we've gotten to the bottom of this incident.
No doubt this day will leave a permanent stain on the industry of the...
industry, wow. Why did I read industry?
The history of the prosecutor's office.
More contradictions have surfaced in her testimony. Your sister's really putting up a fight. She must really care about you. Still, she's not doing this the right way. I think I've finally figured out the contradictions of testimonies. One final possibility to turn everything around. You see, you couldn't have gotten them all. Otherwise, we never would have gotten that final piece. Miss Sky, I believe this jar conceals a truth even you were unaware of. What? We found the final piece of this jar in Chief Gant's safe. In the Chief's safe? But how? I knew it. She really didn't know. There was something even more disturbing about that final piece. There was still blood on it.
But the witness just testified that she gathered every last piece and wiped the blood off of them.
Yes, which leaves us with the only one explanation that makes any sense. On the night Prosecutor Marshall was murdered, you were not the first one to show up on the scene. Chief Gant got there before you. Sisters' love could drive them to do anything to protect their younger siblings. I doubt it. If I got into trouble, my older sister wouldn't do shit.
But couldn't the defendant have simply missed a piece?
I'm afraid that's unlikely. The pieces are too big for anyone to miss, let alone an ace detective.
That may well be, but everyone makes mistakes. Even I once wasted an entire day looking for my dentures. They were in my mouth all along. Ha! Can you believe that?
Have you forgotten, Your Honor? When this witness arrived at the scene, the jar was already broken.
Oh, that!
There's no way a name could have been written on a shattered jar. Another person discovered the scene prior to the witness.
I hope you're not implying this person was Chief Gant. The time he was looking for Doc downstairs. Besides, even if he was there first, why would he break the jar?
The question is, if he did arrive there first, why did he hide that fact for 2 years?
Well, Your Honor, can you answer us that? No!
Yeah, a judge breakdown. You saw it here first.
Wait, I'm not the one on trial here.
Damon Gant arrived at the crime scene prior to the witness. He proceeded to break the jar and purposely hid one of the broken pieces. Question, what is this action called? Fabrication of evidence.
But why would Chief Gant do that?
In light of what happened afterwards, isn't it clear?
What happened afterwards?
Discovering the scene, Lana Skye believed her sister Emma killed the victim. Determined to help her sister, she sought Gant's aid. Lending her his aid, Gant helped her create evidence that incriminated Doc. Sparing Emma, and therein lies the reason. The reason why Miss Skye became the Chief's puppet. Ow! You bit your thumb hard. No, I did it on my own. Please, sis, stop trying to protect the Chief. I can't watch you suffer anymore for my sake. No, you didn't. It wasn't you, Emma. You didn't kill anyone. Don't believe anything Mr. Wright says. Fuck you! I'm not a liar, you're a liar! Defense attorneys make up the most foul lies to defend their clients. Foul lies? Imagine that coming from my own client.
I guess you do seem the type who likes to twist the truth.
Hey! Wait a minute! What if we're still smack dab in the middle of Gant's trap?
Is something wrong, Mr. Wright?
Lana may be right after all. What do you mean, Mr. Wright? So you do tell foul lies then, Mr. Wright? No, wait, no, not about that! Miss Skye, please testify once more. But if evidence was fabricated behind your back, then Emma's accidental killing of Prosecutor Marshall might also be a lie. But I do remember knocking over Mr. Marshall. Miss Skye, if you will. I can't. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. This cross-examination may not change a thing. However, there is a possibility that it will if you tell the truth. Very well. I'll testify about what I really saw. Well, she's already perjured herself on the stand, so how much worse can it get? Alright, the witness may testify once more for the final time. Actual crime scene. When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body impaled on that suit of armor's sword. Emma and Doc... Why do you keep calling it a sword? It's clearly a short spear! Emma and Doc were lying unconscious on the floor nearby. When I saw what had happened, I thought she did it. That's why I erased all the evidence that linked her to the murder. I had Chief Gant help me remove the body from the sword and carry it. But if it all really was a fabrication, Emma might be innocent! Unbelievable! The body was impaled on the armored sword? You were the only one who saw that. If only you had proof. Actually, I do have proof. Murphy, a fate could decide to make it so much worse. Here's the thing. She actually has proof that he was impaled. On her person. Oh. No! She gave it to me! I gave it to Mr. Wright just this morning. What? To me? It's a picture I took of the crime scene as I encountered it. I thought it might be needed. But I don't remember receiving a picture like that. Lana must have known. See, Mr. Wright, she really does have faith in you. Very well, Mr. Wright. Please present this picture. I don't remember receiving any pictures. Lana said she gave it to you this morning, right? I still remember getting something from her then. Let's check that evidence again. Must be a picture in there somewhere. Hello! Hey, there's a picture here. Whoops! Oh my! This is the actual crime scene? No other detectives saw the crime scene like this, because I contacted Criminal Affairs only after I had rearranged everything. Yeah! Yes, Mr. Wright! That piece cut out from his vest, could that be? Cloth we found inside Chief Gant's safe. What's this? This is a handprint, isn't it? That cloth, it had fingerprints on it. Whoever fingerprints those are must be the real murderer. What? But those fingerprints, they're yours, Emma! Why are your lips turning all purple, Mr. Wright? Anyway, let's get on with this cross-examination. So long as you tell the truth, we should be able to flesh out the real murderer. Very well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination. Hold it! Ha ha ha! Come now, Aji. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I've ever seen. Chief Gant! What, now you want to make me out as a bad guy too? If so, I'd like to put in a word or two in my defense. I'm afraid it's too late for that. What? You already declined to testify. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort. This It's supposed to be that risk we were talking about earlier. Just sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of the noose tightening around your own neck. So what? You think I'm worried? Well, you look a little worried. Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements. What do you mean? The evidence will do all the talking for me. Even if I can't testify, I can still present evidence.
Yes, that's true. Wait, you mean you still have some conclusive evidence?
No, I don't. But someone does.
Someone?
Is he trying to go Super Saiyan? Very close. So, what's your excuse, Righto? Why have you been keeping quiet about it? You don't have something to show us, right? Something that proves who knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death? Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt.
Is this true, Mr. Wright?
If I show the piece of evidence now, Emma's sure to be made out as the murderer.
Mr. Wright, if you have any more evidence, present it now. If you try to conceal anything, you will be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries.
What do I do now? I better think this through carefully. Can't afford to make wrong decisions. Should I present that piece of evidence? One that shows who really killed Prosecutor Marshall? I'm sorry, but frankly, I cannot. Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. You're probably just sitting there going, what? But the cloth. I have the cloth. Why am I not presenting the cloth? Well, I cannot present the cloth. Therefore, I don't have what cloth he's talking about. It doesn't exist as far as the court is concerned.
What? You lie! Chief Gant, you opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. The conclusive evidence.
I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? Justifiable self-defense, sort of. We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything odd about the chest area?
It looks like part of it's been cut out for some reason.
You mean you had this in your safe?
What? That means you, the chief of police, have been concealing evidence? This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department.
Maybe. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, Righto. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as a murderer. I'll tell you what really happened.
What? You mean you admit to it?
I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. It then occurred to me that I could use this situation to control Lana. So you really were manipulating her? I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lay with her sister, then when she saw the scene, she would ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Sky. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room. And I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Doc convicted. When I tampered with the crime scene, I hid 2 pieces of evidence. This was before Lana arrived at the scene, mind you. 2 pieces of evidence? You mean those items in your safe?
But why?
For insurance, of course. Insurance? I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed.
You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence?
What do you take me for, a fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jar fragment? I hit the most legible part of Emma's name. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood off all the pieces. But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar, too? Ho, ho, ho! Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept one more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? Come on, Wright, cough it up already. I know you have it. What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it, then, Chief Gant? That you were hiding the cloth you cut off the victim's vest in your safe? Yes, I admit it. I don't want to have to do that, being chief and all, but it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer.
Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago, you said you didn't have any evidence you could present.
Foolish move, Rhino. You should have shown it then, before it was too late. It's been a long battle, but the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine, and oh god, we're on page 4 of evidence. See, no evidence should be shown without approval of the police department, or unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. Is it? Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now.
Alright, then let's see his conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall.
Technically, it doesn't. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest?
Oh, yes! At last, you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth.
Your Honor, the prosecutor requests that we immediately send to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather, there must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly.
You mean...
It could not have been forged. It must have been authentic, conclusive evidence. You're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy. What? Think about it. Rhino had all this time to present this evidence, yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that. Mr. Wright, do you really know?
Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer.
Whose fingerprints are they? Very well, I'll tell you. Should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. Person to whom these fingerprints belong to is... frankly, it's... if you check, it's Emma Skies.
Emma? Emma Sky?
What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me? Ha 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 ha! You're really something, Rhino. You knew this girl did it all along, and you still try to pin the murder on me.
So it's true, tragic but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death.
Hold it. How could you? You monster! I may have fucked it up, by the way. Just checking. This game will lead you on for a bit if you fuck up.
Miss Sky,
you know whose fingerprints those were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't. Miss Sky, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet. Ha! But I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer? Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up. Oh? And what's that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? What? Chief Garrett, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask? It was in the sky, wasn't it? No. I'm afraid that's literally not possible. Does anyone here want to take a swing at why this piece of evidence proves that Emma didn't murder Neil Marshall? She definitely made that handprint. She definitely made it while shoving him. It definitely was on his vest and was cut away. But there's something missing. I want to see if any of you can guess. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction. What? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about? I'm talking about a contradiction, one that proves who the real killer is. Yeah! Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could it possibly contradict? Chief Garrett, the tyrannical reign ends here. Behold, the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. Why, it's this! This contradicts it. You really think that piece of cloth would have a handprint and no blood on it whatsoever? Look at how it was stained. He spat up blood all over himself, so much that it stained his shirt underneath his vest. But not the piece of cloth itself, even though just before it had blood? No. That doesn't occur. And what exactly is this supposed to be? This is the picture Miss Sky took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of his vest was cut out? Yes, his shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though. Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs no doubt were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth. Oh, but that piece of cloth... Wait, there's no blood on it. Ah! Since In the Sky's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword at the time. No, this is nonsense. Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. He most likely had his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Lana Sky, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the armored sword? Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood, a jar that they then broke on purpose, leave behind a clue, and make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago? That you personally cut out the bloodless piece of the victim's vest? Ironic, isn't it? Though that the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you are the actual murderer! No! It's finally all over. Thing is, if I presented that piece of evidence... Oh, no. Did I fuck up? Oh boy! That was close, Rhino! You almost had me! So sorry, but you'll have to do better than that. I refuse your allegations. What do you mean, refute your allegations? You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Order, order! What nonsense is this? Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Aji? Earlier, old Wright here concealed that piece of cloth. So then, what's your excuse, Wright? You do have some conclusive evidence, don't you? Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time.
Well, that's true.
The defense did refuse to present evidence. At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence. But that's not fair! Oh! Did you actually think you'd best me in court? It looks like last laughs on you, son.
I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth?
True, legal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed legal.
Well, Mr. Wright?
It seems, at last, the time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived.
Mr. Wright, do you admit it? That you purposely and legally concealed this piece of cloth?
Well, I did not. I admit I refused to present it at one point.
Ha ha! So the evidence is legal!
No, it isn't, Mr. Gant. Huh? It's not that I didn't present evidence then. It's that I couldn't.
What do you mean, you couldn't?
There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence. And they're not joking. The game will let you show it, continue on, and have it declared illegal, and you fail the case. Doing it how I did it, by denying that I had that piece of evidence at that time, because it would have been illegal if I did present it. There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence.
No, Archie, don't listen to his lies. There's nothing but a coward. You can't really believe.
There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not?
Very well, let us settle this once and for all. Earlier you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of law, then do so now.
Sure. Evidence law. This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law. What's this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Sky's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth, nothing more. What? You see, it's written right here in this book, the second rule of evidence law. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself inside your safe. It goes without saying, I did not have approval from the police department. Rule number 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. And here's the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident.
What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and...
Sorry, but can you recall when was that picture presented?
That was shown only a few moments ago.
No. He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest?
Oh, yes.
No! It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the Chief of Police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer. There's only one person who that could be.
Damon Gant! The killer was you!
The audience is now deaf. I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years, he's been snooping around the department trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, and he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. Fuck my ears! Sorry, not sorry. He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Starr, then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman? Yeah, that's right. If the evidence is... sorry. If the evidence is transferred, I'd lose my only chance to find out the truth. Please, you gotta help me. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. Excuse me. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room. Then, all of a sudden, he decided to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered. He opened his evidence locker and he was taking the evidence out. He said, "It's not too late. I'm going to hand all this over to Marshall." Well, to be honest, I was a bit taken aback by his words. I had a bad feeling when he came to see me, but I never thought he'd bring up SL9. That's when I saw it, that accursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out. Doing so would have only led to more blood, making it near impossible to hide your crime. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I hurried to wipe it up. I was worrying so much about the floor, I didn't realize my fatal mistake. The bloody handprint. Detective Gumshoe's locker. On Detective Gumshoe's locker, sorry. I used to be known as the crime computer. But everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Then you put the body in my car. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of any other way to move the body. I broke your trunk, but what's the big deal? You make a lot more than us detectives ever will. Leaving the prosecution's car aside, how could you get Miss Skye involved in all of this? Well, she had much to lose as if the truth came out. So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker. I felt bad for having to do it. I also didn't have the time to pick and choose what to take. So, you left the jar fragments in the glove. Yeah. It looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. They all did their best to get in my way. I've got to hand it to them. They do their jobs well, much to my dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy, why do you stand in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. Yeah. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbye. Oh, Udgy. What? Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend.
I'm sorry too, David Gant. I knew you as you used to be long ago. You were once a fine investigator, an example to others on the force. I'm sorry to learn that you are no longer that person.
Those days are gone now, Unji. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now you have Wright here. And Worthy. With these two around, you can't go wrong. In fact, I can hear them already. The melodious sounds of a new beginning. There are two things I want you to understand. Yes? First, your sister never hurt anyone. Second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Sky, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years. From the time I had Gant help me forge evidence up until today.
So, it seems all the questions raised in this trial have been answered.
I'm sorry, Miss Sky. I couldn't get you out of all your troubles. My, what high standards you have for a rookie. I could see why Mia thought so highly of you. Who knows? A few years from now, you just might make it to the top. A genuine smile from her. I owe you my thanks, Miss Wright. A genuine smile from the Ice Queen. Miss Sky. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it has been for you. It was nothing. Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you. And yet, you rose above it all and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth.
So stop it. I only did my job. In light of this case, it seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. Miss Sky?
Yes, Your Honor?
You are innocent of murder. However, although the chief blackmailed you, you in fact are still acted as his accomplice. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date.
Yes, I understand, Your Honor.
Is there something amusing about all of this? Why are you smiling?
It's been a long time, Your Honor. A long time since I felt free of these heavy chains.
Well, this trial's gone on far too long already.
You could say that again. It took me 3 streams to do this one case. This is a long trial.
Regarding the charge of murder, this court finds the defendant Miss Lana Sky.
Woo! Bring out the confetti cannons! I mean, really, would you have expected this outcome? And, you know, from the very beginning? You know, first it's like, oh crap, she was caught stabbing the defendant in, you know, with a witness. Blood is on her. Oh, yes, sure. Yeah, Delta, you totally believed it. No, you didn't. Would you have ever expected something as grotesque as the Blue Badger to become a very important part of this case?
That's all. This court is adjourned.
I mean, this had so many twists and turns that you probably don't even know which way you're facing anymore. I mean, you're already deaf. I mean, I saw to that. But now you're blind. February 25th, 5:03 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby, number 2. At long last, it's finally over. Emma? Why the long face? I'm sorry your sister didn't get completely off the hook, but at least she wasn't convicted for a murder she didn't commit. No, that's not it. Just now, after the trial ended. Oh, of course, you had a feeling something was wrong about the chief. Was it the pipe organ? It's always the pipe organ, of course. Dead giveaway. Just now, after the trial ended, I can see why Mia Fey thought so highly of you. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. You've done well. You know, I did my best too, but Lana didn't say a single word to me.
Oh, we're not interrupting anything, pals! Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Oh.
Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it?
You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Making a detective run all around while on duty? And to top it all off, you call me here? I've seen happier people at funerals. Hey, lighten up, pals. I'm only kidding.
Oh, are you here because of my sister again?
Nope. Not this time. I came today because of you, pal.
Me?
That's right. I thought you'd like to see someone.
Boom. Lana! Should you be doing this? She's still under arrest, you know.
Well, I won't tell if you don't.
God damn it! Emma, I owe you an apology. It's okay, sis. Don't worry about it. That day 2 years ago was the first time in my life I ever panicked. It was all I could do to keep myself from screaming. All I could think about was keeping you from getting wrapped up in that mess. Sis, I asked Gad to help me cover up the truth. I thought I was doing it for your sake, but now I realize I was wrong. I changed after that day. I had to. It was the only way I could make it through the past 2 years. I knew how much I was hurting you by distancing myself, but I couldn't bring myself to tell you what I did. I was scared. Scared that you'd look at me with those eyes of yours. I was scared of how you'd react if you knew. But sis, you were only doing it for me. No. Huh? I turned my back on you that day. In hiding what I believed to be the truth, I was deceiving you. Sis, I'm such a fool. It took me all this time to realize it. Emma, I'm so sorry. But sis, you don't have to apologize. I'm happy now. You're happy? Of course. You know, sis, I always knew that one day you'd come back. And now you have. Oh, Emma, Emma! Yay, they're happy. Alright, get your damn tears out. Get your handkerchiefs. No one can change the past. The only thing we can do is strive to make up for our mistakes. Why must we make up for our mistakes, you ask? Because in doing so, we can find the way back to our rightful path. And it is from there that we can move on toward a brighter future. You know, I realize that I read stuff, and sometimes, as I'm going through it and saying it, I've read it too quickly, and I've said the completely different thing, and yet had the same exact meaning. Because he said, in so doing, and I went, in doing so. At least that's what I felt, watching the two sisters make up. Mr. Wright, Mr. Gumshoe.
Me?
Thank you both for all that you've done. I'm sure we'll meet again someday. Isn't that right, Edgeworth? Edgeworth? Stop hiding and come over here. Well, he looks a little grumpy about this. Where was he hiding? I just came to say, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. Right. Well, I'll be going now. So he thinks. Mr. Edgeworth, I hope you don't blame yourself for what happened. We were the ones who acted corruptly, not you. It's too late for me. No matter what anyone may say, I realize today that I can't correct my mistakes. Mr. Edgeworth? Not only that, but I don't even trust myself anymore. Chief Gant was right. You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone. I do despise criminals. I plan to dedicate my entire life to fighting them. But in order to fight crime on my own, I needed a weapon. It's scary, but I've known that to be true for quite some time now. But Edgeworth, who knows? Given enough time, I might have tried to pull something like Chief Gant did. That thought terrifies me. That's why I can't continue on as a prosecutor. Edgeworth, don't you understand? Damon Gant and your mentor, Manfred von Karma, were both the best of the best when it came to fighting crime, but they both made the same mistake. You said, in order to fight crime on my own, I need a weapon. That may be true, but think back to today's trial. You weren't alone. You were working together with Mr. Wright. And because of that partnership, you were able to present evidence that otherwise would have gone undiscovered. Isn't that right, Mr. Wright? Huh? What? Oh, yeah. Shit. What was this, a pop quiz? Come on, Mr. Wright, show him what Lana's talking about. Evidence, huh? Something that neither Edgeworth nor I would have been able to find on our own. Probably the evidence list. He had one half, I had the other. That's the picture I drew. Our counterattack began with this. You had one half of the evidence list, I had the other. A part we wouldn't have been able to completely restore in this picture. That didn't just happen by chance, Mr. Edgeworth. It's time for me to go. Mr. Edgeworth? If you'll excuse me, there are still some loose ends that need wrapping up. Take care, Chief Prosecutor. Edgeworth, what will you do now? Well, whatever you do, just remember, you can let what happened, or you can, wait. Oh, well, never mind. I thought I was misreading it. You can let what happened kill the prosecutor in you, or you can let it help you grow. In the end, it's up to you. I know, it seems I owe you my thanks too, Wright? But what I face now is my problem. Edgeworth, I'll be waiting for you in court. Farewell. By the way, yeah, he's not going to be the main prosecutor of Game 2. Yeah, we're just at end of Game 1. I'd better be going too. Okay, but I'll be by to visit soon. It seems we both have a lot to learn and catching up to do. Here, here's a little something for you. By the way, if you can't read it because my head's cutting it off, it's a book called Scientific Investigation. Scientific Investigation? It's the first book I ever bought. Study it well. Thanks, sis. I will. First book she ever bought. Did she steal all the others that she had when she was a kid? Or when she was in school? And so another case came to a close. As for the sisters, I have faith. Faith that their lives have only just begun. And as for me, I think it's time I started on a new journey of my own. A journey to rediscover myself.
Well, don't go tricking off just yet, pal.
Huh? What is it, Detective?
There's just a little matter to be resolved about the chief prosecutor. You see, she isn't supposed to be out of jail like this.
But I thought you said it was okay.
Yeah, well, it may be okay with me, but folks in prison are a different story.
Huh?
Basically, I had to bribe a guard in order to sneak her out for 30 minutes. Believe me, it wasn't cheap either.
Huh? Way to go, Detective. I didn't know you had a wild side.
Yeah, well, haha. You see, Mr. Wright here is the one who will be footing the bill.
What? Huh? Huh?
What? You think I could afford it with my salary? You gotta be kidding me, pal.
Huh? 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 Thank you, Mr. Wright. You're the best. Why is it? I suddenly feel like I want to scream.
Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we all go to pay it off together?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Come on, guys. Let's go. Objection! Objection! And that was the bonus case of... Oops. I arranged for... Ow! Should be pleased to study under a top coroner. As for me, this affair has pretty much ended my days at the prosecutor's office. Still, I'll manage to find my way back to the field somehow. Then, I'll be able to investigate crimes together with Emma. I was gonna grab the DS game. God damn it. There it is. Ah! Of course, I hurt my knee on the damn thing. I wasn't expecting him to have a bonus scene, like, after the first letters.
Yikes, I thought it was a gunner for a moment there. In the end, though, they overlooked my unauthorized investigation of the chief's office. If we penalized you anymore, it'd be worse than firing you. Yep, that's what they said. It just goes to show, you can't shake me off that easily.
Because, like I said, that was the bonus case from this, the DS version of Phoenix Wright. The second version of the game, the first one was Game Boy Advance and only released in Japan that way. So I do not have a copy of it. And apologies for missing the first line of the first scene. My new mission is to guard the main entrance and take care of Billy! Can you believe it? I've been demoted to a security guard! My partner's keeping an eye on the entrance for me today. I'll show them, though! Someday I'm gonna make detective! Yes, sir! Then I can be just like Dick Gumshoe! Shoot higher, sir. Please, please, aim higher. Not that you can, but try. Oh, God. Just murder that thing! It shouldn't be alive! It shouldn't exist! Yes! Ah. What is it? Can't you see I'm having me a showdown with a steak lunch partner? Miss Star managed to sneak this into me. She's seeing one of the guards, it seems. Well, cowboy, looks like you did it. You even gave Bambino back her smile. Can you make sure Billy and the gang get her their water? Oof, yeah. It's a good point. The new security guard does not have the wherewithal to feed it. Looks like we won't be seeing each other for a while. As a farewell gift, I put a new meal on the menu, the Wright Ray lunch. The top layer tastes as bitter as defeat, but the bottom layer's as sweet as victory. Kids seem to dig the turnabout theme. It's a hot seller around exam time. Just make sure not to eat it backwards. I'd partially forgotten what kind of voice I gave her. Like the first day of this case was primarily her. Oh, thank you for the host, Diesel. Though you came in right as we're hitting credits.
I'll never forget what that young defense lawyer said after the trial. Let's see, what was his name again? Mr. Left? Anyway, he said he's been doing, something or another for, how many years? Well, anyway, I've got another trial to get to, so I'd better be... Huh? Oh no! I forgot my gavel! Sorry, gotta go!
One of the only times you see the judge's chair. Brown Global Solutions did the translation, and boy, did they kind of mess up with the localization, but they did a good job otherwise. I mean, it probably wasn't their decision to do localization, so you can't really pin it on them. Ah, nothing soothes the soul like fresh country air. Still, sometimes I do miss hearing you in your objection. Still, I can't go back until I'm a full-fledged spirit medium. Mystic Maya, afternoon training's about to begin. Coming! Well, I'll see you around, Nick. I do not do her voice justice. I can't do girls' voices very well. Keiji Kuburo, Tomohiro Matsuya, Hideaki Kadagiri, Miho Kobayashi, Kintaro Ohira, Ryohei Koyama. I'm tripping over myself. Stop messing with that. Mr. Edgeworth. Mr. Edgeworth, I brought your tea. What's going on? Yeah, Mr. Edgeworth is not currently there. Mine Matsuakawa. Tatsuya Minami? Yeah, I think it's Minami. Thanks for coming to see me off. I can't believe I'm going to Europe. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Thank you so much for everything. I'm a little sad, but I'll be alright. Whenever I want to see Lana, all I have to do is open this book. Probably in the back cover. Old picture of the two of them. God, when she was just a police officer. I don't even think that was when she was a detective yet. I definitely don't have time to do the first case of the second game of this trilogy. I bet you there was an achievement for fucking up the whole evidence thing in that case. God, I'm curious. But that's it for tonight. I do have something I have to go to tomorrow. Okay, I accidentally pushed that. But like I said, that was the bonus case when they moved the first Phoenix Wright game from Game Boy Advance to the DS. That was the actual bonus case. It was not in the original form of the game, and frankly, they had so much space to work with. They made it a big, winding, complex case where you had more than, what, 3 pages of evidence? You had a 4th page or you had 1 piece on, but still, that's a ton of evidence for one case. Most of them cleared out, but stuff just kept coming up as being relevant. Very complex. But like I said, that's gonna have to be it for tonight. I have somewhere to go tomorrow. I'm gotta go to a military base and convince them that, you know, to let me in, in spite of being a civvy. But it'll be pretty easy, I'm sure. But in any case, that'll be tomorrow, and I will be back on Friday with Mass Effect 3. I'll have to figure out where exactly we were. I think we were actually going to hit... it was either Sirkesh or we were going to hit up the, that one DLC that involves... they call it Leviathan. That might be an interesting thing to go chase down. Might not even be able to finish it in that one, but give it a shot. But in any case, I want to say is, have a nice night, and don't let the Chief of Police get one up on you tonight. Know your evidence law. Have a nice night.